Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're all having a fantastic week so far. Well, with every video that I post here on the channel, I receive so many wonderful comments and messages. And first off, I just want to say thank you to everyone that does take the time to reach out. It really does mean a lot to me. And I do try to respond back to each and every one of you. Now, most of the comments are going to spark conversation about the pennies that we showcase in that video. And every so often, we do get additional questions about the topic that we went over that week. We always try to help whenever we can. But every so often, I do get a video suggestion, and that is what we're going to do this week. Recently, I got a message from fellow collector Alexander, and he asked the question about the new automated or automatic penny machines and whether you get better results by pressing the entire set all at once or if you press the designs individually, one at a time. And that's actually a really interesting question, one I've never really thought about, but I think it's something we can certainly delve into this week. So why don't we head out to a few different machines, we'll press some pennies both in full sets and individually, and let's see what kind of results we get. Let's get things rolling. All right, here we are at Hollywood Studios. This is actually the last stop on a few different locations we've already done for this test, which I'll share with you shortly. But inside this shop here at Hollywood Studios, there's a machine that is notorious for always giving me at least one misroll of the different designs. So I want to test our little theory out here and see what happens. So I'm going to head inside, get this last coin full set and then individual coins so that we can kind of check them out. Once I get that, we're going to head back to Collecting HQ to take a closer look at all of our little test subjects. For this first machine, I wanted to just focus on the one design of Grumpy Dwarf from the Snow White set. I've pressed this set quite a few times since it's been released, and this design always comes out terribly for me. As you can see from the full set pressing on the left, the design appears to be slightly shifted and most of the dot border is cut off on that left side. On the right is an individual pressing of the Grumpy design, and it's surprisingly pressed much nicer and not as cut off. Here I've included a second individual pressing, and it came out even better. It's still not quite perfectly centered, but certainly better than the version I got where I pressed the full set. Next, I visited the All-Star Movies Resort, and at a quick glance between the full set and the individual press set, they seem pretty similar. No real big differences seem to stick out. As we take a closer look at the Cinderella design, I pressed 2 full sets this time around, and for the design, they came out almost identical. However, the individual pressing this time around was cut off on the right side and is missing some of the dot border. Let's look at another design in this set featuring Ariel, the Little Mermaid. The first full set had the design shifted a bit to the right side, starting to cut off that border a little bit. The second full pressing came out more complete and in my opinion is the best of this set. The individual pressing looks very similar to the first one we pressed, with the bottom right portion of the design cut off. Here we are visiting Epcot at the Mission Space Cargo Bay store. As I find with most of these electronic machines, most of the designs come out fine, but there always seems to be one or two that are just slightly misrolled. As we can see at the bottom of this comparison, I can easily spot two that are not really that great. This design with Mickey and his friends in spacesuits came out best in the second full set pressing, and I think the individual pressing this time around is the worst of the bunch. Poor Donald. When I pressed the second full set, this design really came out poorly and is shifted quite far down. The individual pressing appears to be the best one at this machine, but that seems to change depending on the day and time you use it. Heading up I-4 into Orlando, I headed into Universal to test out a couple of their machines. First was inside Islands of Adventure at the Toon Extra store. This time I opted to try a 3-design electronic machine, and I feel like I'm going back and forth with which works better. In this set, the individual pressings are pretty clearly the worst ones. I had time for one last machine, so I headed over to Universal Studios and into the Hello Kitty store. Again, at a quick glance, these both look very comparable, but let's zoom in on a couple of these designs. With this My Melody design, the first full pressing was slid off a bit to the left side. The second full set pressing was really nice and almost perfect, except for it, being a zinc penny. And the individual pressing was not too shabby either. Finally, our last test subject is the Choco Cat design. The first full pressing looks pretty perfect to me, but to be honest, that second full pressing and even the individual pressings, even though they were a little off to the left, are really not that bad, and I'd be pretty happy to have any of these in my collection. So after all our tests here today, what do you think is the best pressing option? Well, there you have it. I just don't think we can completely say for sure that pressing the designs individually is going to guarantee you that perfect press penny final result each and every time. As you can see from our results here today, they certainly varied in quality. Some of them looked not too bad, but others were pretty severely cut off on one side. There was really no rhyme or reason to it, just however the coin fell in the machine is what we got. Plus, by running them individually, you're also going to be spending more money. In our examples here today, the machines, for the most part, were the 8-design version. So when I got the full set, it cost $5 for all 8. And when I ran them individually, it cost me $8. So I basically was spending an extra $3 hoping for better results, and that wasn't the case. So I would certainly recommend you just press them all in one set and save the extra money. It really just seems to come down to, hoping that the machine is calibrated properly or as best as it can be. Sometimes the machines will get a little out of whack over time. I know a lot of the ones at the Disney parks and Universal parks, there is a service number. So if you do find that the designs are coming out really messed up, make sure you report that machine so that we can try to get them fixed, obviously for future guests and other collectors, and hopefully you're able to come back after it's fixed and get a much better final design. But if that is the case and just the machine is not calibrated properly, I just don't think that it matters whether you press them all together or individually. The results are probably going to be very similar. Thank you for coming along and helping to investigate this with me today. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, this topic was suggested by Alexander, and I'm always checking our email and the video comments for other video suggestions. So if you have any myths or ideas or hacks you want me to look into a little further, be sure to let me know. Enjoy the rest of your week, and as always, keep on pressing.